Hello and welcome to While You're at the Library. This is your favorite television show where a group of very astute and intelligent librarians sit around and talk about books and other things. Welcome to our parlor. We're glad to have you here. I'm Catherine Poulter. I'm the Children's Services Supervisor, and next to me is John Bickelhaupt.
I work in reference.
And here's Kathann Hendricks. And what do you do, Kathann?
I'm the young adult librarian by title, and everything in between.
That's right. And here's Becky Hadley, who's our reader's advisor. And what other hats do you wear?
Lead circulation librarian.
Amazing.
Is the official title.
And here's another lead librarian, Christy.
Christy Lyon. And I do outreach as well.
That's right.
We all wear lots of hats
We
at the
all
library.
do outreach, I think.
Yes, we all share just about everything, and we're glad to. And one of the things we like to share is our favorite books with you. So, Christy, why don't we start with you, and you can tell us a little bit about what you've brought with you.
All right. So my first book is called A Super Upsetting Cookbook About Sandwiches. And it is by Tyler Cord, and he runs several sandwich shops in New York. I loved this book. It is so amazing. First off, because he is very funny.
Punny?
He's punny too, but he has a whole, his whole introduction to the book is completely made up. It's about him living in France with his wife, and he has no wife. He never lived in France.
What's upsetting about sandwiches?
I didn't think it was that upsetting. His stories maybe were upsetting, but it wasn't that upsetting. I think the most part he talks about in several times, he's like, I can't believe you bought a $40 cookbook about how to make a sandwich. So I think that's the upsetting part, is that it's an expensive cookbook about sandwiches. But there are amazing recipes in here. I made pickled mushrooms and pickled onions.
Which kind of mushrooms did you use to pickle?
Just the baby bellas, or the brown ones.
Creminis?
Yes. And there's a potato chip recipe, all kinds of fun stuff.
Potato chip sandwich recipe?
Potato chips on the sandwiches, because he outlines, he has a sandwich construction theory and chart. So he outlines the essential parts of a sandwich are substance, fatty, acidic, sweet, and crunchy.
Crunchy's important.
Yes. And then has kind of a mix and match chart in the back, so you
That's
could
why
make
peanut
it.
butter sandwiches have to have
Crunchy
peanut butter.
peanut butter.
Or
Yes.
apple slices.
Yeah, that works too.
So I loved this book. I made almost everything out of this book.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good. Becky, what do you have for us today?
Well, before I talk about books today, I'd like to talk about summer reading. So exciting, because we have this wonderful summer reading program at the library for all ages. Our theme this year is Build a Better World, as you guys know. So I helped do the adult programming for it, and I just wanted to show real quick, this year is a little bit different than years past. We're trying to reach 2,000 pages when you sign up. And that might sound like a lot or not very many, so we can kind of adapt it to your reading style. And some of the fun things we have to go with it is some worksheets, like some crossword puzzles, some word searches, fill in the blanks. Other things you can do is service projects, because that's how we're building a better world. So we have a Kindness Day challenge, 25 days of kindness. So there's 30 options here, and when you complete your different things of kindness, acts of service, there's fun things on here like smile at 5 people today, feed the birds, give a compliment to someone, give a treat or note to your mail carrier, clean out your closet and donate some clothing, help your neighbor with some yard work. Anyways, when you complete 25 of these, you get put into our grand prize drawing. When you reach your 2,000 pages, you get invited to a reader's brunch that will be held in August, which I think is going to be fun. There's going to be some other prizes involved in that also. But just a couple other dates I want to point out is later this month we have a night of color where we get together and we do the adult coloring pages and listen to an audiobook. And then in July, we have a puzzle night where we're going to be just putting jigsaw puzzles together and listening to an audiobook. So that's just some of the fun things we're doing for summer reading for the adults. And I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit for the teens and kids as we go around the circle here.
Yes.
So come sign up if you haven't already. It's not too late to register. Then you can get into the drawing and come to our readers brunch at the end.
Thank you. That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Kathan.
Well, on that note, I can talk about the teen summer reading program. Ours is obviously the same theme, Build a Better World. You may notice there's something a little strange about this. This is kind of a puzzle, and I'm challenging the teens to do at least 2 things from each of these quadrants. And reading, of course, is the most important. So if these kids choose instead to just read the entire summer, they can substitute reading for any of the things they see. So we have reading. You read a book, you put in a triangle. Read another book, put in another triangle. You can volunteer in any way you want to, and you can list all these things on the back. If you attend one of our Monday programs, we call it Build on Monday because we are building a cardboard arcade that we want to let the community enjoy in August. And also we are encouraging them to come to our STEAM activities, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, because we feel that arts are just as important. And so those are every Friday. The Fridays that I am there, we'll be doing some things for older kids, and then the Fridays, because I work every other Friday. And then Catherine always has programming for grade school youth every Friday. Everything's at 2 o'clock. So Mondays Build on Mondays too. Tuesday we're showing movies for teens that are rated PG to PG-13. Wednesdays we have a board game group. So we have a teacher from Highland High School, Ted Bondman, who's been volunteering his time to teach different kinds of board games that kids may not have tried before, such as King of Tokyo.
Cool.
They love that game, and they get quite raucous playing it too. Thursdays, if they choose, would rather come to a movie that's rated G to PG, then we're showing movies that day too. And Friday, of course, is our STEAM day. So lots of fun activities, easy to earn some incentives, such as every 2 things that they complete, they can get a prize. Most of the prizes are books, and they can get 3 prizes, and then they have entry into drawing for a larger prize at the end of the summer, as well as I am giving what do I call mid-summer participation drawing, and we are drawing 10 actually, 10 different times for tickets to go swimming at Ross Park. So they'll get either 2 tickets, we're giving them out in pairs, 2 tickets for swimming alone, or they'll get 2 tickets to go to the splash dance. So the more they participate, they'll get raffle tickets as well for doing the reading and everything. And we're doing the kindness challenge too, but ours is a little bit different, and I just had to laugh. We changed it up a little so that they didn't have to do quite as many things. And one of the things on there says to call a relative that you haven't talked to in a long time just to say hello. And I had one of the teens that was sitting at the computers and had been computer gaming. He looked at his chart and he says, "Oh, I'll do that one right now." He picks up his phone, interrupts his game, and calls one of his relatives. Says, "I'm supposed to just call you and say hi."
Oh, that's sweet.
So I thought that was pretty nice to see them participate. So, and not to be forgotten, we have a Harry Potter cosplay party coming up. Every summer we have a teen party. The last Friday in July, which is almost Harry Potter's birthday, we'll have a teen party based on Harry Potter, and everybody can dress up in their favorite Harry Potter character.
And that's after hours?
And that's an after hours thing. We're going to set up a little Hogsmeade village, and they can come and sample wares and maybe make a
wand
and some jokes, the Weasleys.
Wizard Wheezes.
Yeah, the booth.
What are those bots?
Oh yeah, and we'll have them taste the
Birdie Bots,
Birdie
every
Bots.
flavor beans.
Yep. So we have a lot of things planned for that, and then we want to extend that to the children
On Harry Potter's
on his actual
birthday.
birthday. So we'll set up something. We'll leave it set up so that they can do that on Monday, I believe.
Yes.
So really, there is absolutely no reason to be bored, hot, cold. You just come to the library, be comfortable, and enjoy.
Very nice. Thank you. John, what do you have here?
I've got my voice back.
Oh, good.
Okay. Well, it's the 50th anniversary of the Summer of Love. And we have a display upstairs on the second floor of the library celebrating that. And I brought a few of the books that we've got. This one is called Love is the Song We Sing. It's about San Francisco music from 1965 to 1970. And they cover groups like the Charlatans, and the Grateful Dead, of course, and a number that you've never heard of. So this is about the San Francisco sound, primarily. So there's that book. And then this is an example of one it's a new book that we just got. And it's Summer of Love, Art, Fashion, and Rock and Roll. So, and they've got, examples of the psychedelia and yearbooks, students in their yearbooks, and it's just,
my yearbook.
yeah, it looks, and yeah, there's the, what's that position called? The lotus position.
Lotus
yeah.
position.
You've got to have the lotus position during the Summer of Love. So, so this is a new book. It's even it's got the new book smell.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then there's some others here. This is Peter Coyote. It's a autobiography that covers his time through the 60s and the early 70s primarily. And he was in the San Francisco mime troupe. Very interesting man.
Did you know him?
No. But I know about him. And I read this book, so I know more about him than I knew before I read it. So that's worth reading. And then this is a book on the Grateful Dead, one of the seminal bands of that era.
Legendary.
We have a couple of books on them. I think this is probably the better one of the two. Visionary Music of Britain. This talks about Pink Floyd and the Incredible String Band, among other bands. So you should come up, if you're interested in that sort of thing, you should come up and look at the display and see all the books we have.
And reminisce.
And well, if you're an old man like me, it's really pretty far out to reminisce about that stuff. So
Groovy, thank you.
groovy, yeah, groovy. That's my bag, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. On that note, I will now talk about the Children's Summer Reading Program, which is also really groovy and hip and way out. Far out, I mean.
It's probably way out there.
The Children's Summer Reading Program is great. There's an activity every day for the kids. On Mondays, we have art at 2 o'clock. On Tuesdays, the book wagon goes out into the community and goes to the park. And when kids come to the book wagon, they get a free book. And if they brought their library card, they can even check out some books. Just like Kathann and Becky have in their options for service, we have one of our activities is find some old books of your own, bring them to the book wagon, and let those be given away to new homes. So that's something that kids are doing, and that's really nice. On Wednesdays, we have special visitors. We've had the ISU physics department come up. We've had the Museum of Natural History. They brought some skulls and skins. That was cool. And we have a lot of people coming on Wednesdays to do special programs for the library. On Thursdays, we show movies. And on Fridays, we have, like Kathann mentioned, the STEAM activities. And Saturdays, we're also at the farmer's market with the book wagon, giving away more books. So there's something for everybody. There's also a list of about 40 different reading activities. And if kids will do any 10, it doesn't matter in which order, then they can bring that list back and get a free book, and then do 10 more and get another free book. So there's no excuse not to read. There's always something good to read, and you can find it at the library. So we hope everybody will participate. Christy, tell us about some more things.
Okay, not a cookbook this time.
Okay.
This one is called Gathering of Shadows, and it is by, I can't remember, V.E. Schwab. Gathering of Shadows. It is a fiction book. It is the second book in a series, and I hope V.E., I don't know if it's a woman or a man, writes more, because I really enjoyed it. It's kind of science fiction, fantasy-esque. It is, there's several different Londons, so parallel universes, and only certain people can travel between them. So it's mostly set in what is the Red London, where magic exists. Our world, our part of that parallel is Grey London,
Where no
we don't have
magic
magic. Yes. Or that we once had it, but we don't have it anymore.
Sad.
Stop believing.
And then there's White London and Black London.
Are they good and bad?
Black is, they don't travel to the Black London because something horrible, catastrophic happened there that they don't tell you what happened. And White London is kind of just barren and icy, and not much is left of it. So there are several main characters. In the first book, a thief pickpocket from Grey London, our London, got taken to, well, hitched a ride, went along with, to Red London. So it's kind of the back and forth of the repercussions of taking a non-magic person to a magic world. And the time frame of it for ours is George III in England. So kind of interesting. But it's
That
just
was the mad one, wasn't
Mad
it?
King George, yes. Yes. There's a little bit sort of like the Harry Potter where they, visit the Prime Minister, that sort of thing. So you have the representative from the magical London that visits King George several times. And it's just a really good story. It's a fun story. It's a fun summer story. So get your reading in for summer reading.
And did you read the first of those books?
I did read the first one, but this one, the second one does stand alone. It is quite a separate story. So you could read them not in order.
Okay.
And that's a darker shade of magic is the first one. But they're really, really fun and quick read, and I enjoyed it a lot. So
Fun. Nice. Thank you.
Sometimes you read a book because it's so hot outside and you want to cool off a little bit.
True.
Right? So, my book group read Two Old Women, an Alaskan legend of betrayal, courage, and survival. This is a very short book. You can read it really fast. It even has some little illustrations throughout the book. But this is a good nonfiction story that has been passed down generation to generation. And this lady has finally written it down. So these older women are left behind by their tribe as they're going through the wilderness because they are not keeping up, contributing, and they complain a lot. So they decide, well, we can either sit here and let the elements take us, or we can die trying to survive. And so they decide to fight for it, and they set out some little traps, and they catch some rabbits, they catch some very small animals, and then they realize, you know what, I think we can do this. And so they decide they're going to head towards one of their old camps that's near a river. And they go a little bit every day, and they finally make it there. And this is a really good eye-opener on not only what they have learned, but how they realize, hey, we really did complain a lot. We really were a burden. And the really cool part is later the people come back because they travel according to the seasons, and they find the old women again, and the people are still barely making it. They're having a really rough year, and the two old women who were doing very well, I should say. We decided to help the people that had abandoned them. Very, very good book. Good discussion, even though it was a really quick read. I think it would be a fun one to do, like with a classroom. I think it would be a good one to discuss. But this brought up another topic. One of the ladies in my book group shared with me part of her collection. She collects thimbles, which will be on display at the library in July. But she let me borrow 2 of them to show on the show today. So as we were talking about the old women and how they would make things out of animal hide and all animal parts. So this here is a thimble. This one is made out of walrus gut.
Wow.
Looks like a little moccasin almost.
Almost, and it just fits right on the end of the finger to protect while they're sewing. I was quite amazed. And then there's one other one. This one is made out of seal hide, and it's still got the fur on it and everything. These are from Alaska. Eskimos have made these.
Wow, cool.
So if you think that looks pretty cool, or you're interested in seeing some other thimbles, those will be on display in July on the upstairs floor. So, and read 2 Old Women. It's a very good book and good one to read in the summer because it makes you cold.
Nice. That is a good thing.
So,
Well, I want to read that. I've read that actually for my other book group. I'm going to share a program that happens every single summer, and these are the 2 titles that are coming up this week. This is Audiophile Sync. You can download 2 titles a week for free, and you can keep them forever and ever, and they don't ever go away. And I thought it was really interesting because I'm listening to one right now that I'll talk about in a minute, but
But you're not going to play a
I am going to play a segment.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine, as long as it doesn't say bad words.
No, this is, I chose 2 samples, and
Looks like
this one picked up
horrible.
Terry Pratchett, The Witch's Vacuum Cleaner. I previewed it. The one I'm listening
Okay.
to has some language in it and situations. We were listening to it in the office. I went, oops, sorry. Of course that happened. So this is what it sounds like.
Mr. Ronald, Uncle Ron Swimble, liked birthdays because they meant parties. And since he was a part-time conjurer, that meant engagements. He could make eggs appear out of nowhere, pull flags of all nations out of people's ears, do 50 different card tricks, and was generally very good at the sort of magic that's learned by hard practice in front of a mirror. And even harder practice in front of people, for not many mirrors shout things like rubbish. And if your mirror does, you probably don't need to worry about whether or not you can learn to do magic tricks. Knowing how to run away very fast would be a more useful skill.
Okay, that's just part of one, and I wanted to play just part of the other one, so you can get an idea of the different readers that you might be listening to. They're all really good anymore to listen to. Let's see, this one is called...
You're technology savvy.
Listen to the clip. Oh, right here. I heard it go beep. This is The Witches, The Witches by Stacy Schiff, and it's about, of course, the Salem witch trials.
Mr. Ronald, Uncle
Oh,
Ronald
wrong one.
Swimble,
I
liked
lied.
birthdays because they meant parties. And since
Now I
he was
gotta
a
get back
part-time
to that
conjurer,
one.
that meant engagements.
Wasn't that fun to hear
He
that?
could make eggs appear out of nowhere.
Only problem is I have to figure out how to make it quit.
Do 50 different card tricks.
It
and
will
was
stop
generally
right now. Behave
You did
yourself. The other one's good. Since I don't have many books to talk about here, I will try that one more time and see if we can get it to actually scan the right one. Now, if it doesn't work, we'll go on to something else.
Mr. Ronald.
Yep.
Okay.
I can't listen to anything else today, but I did listen to it earlier and it was good. So this is available Thursday to Thursday. This week is June 22nd to June 28th. The Terry Pratchett Witches and the other Witches book that you didn't get to hear. And then it changes every Thursday. All you have to have is either a phone or an iPad, and I've got a book on here that I'll talk about a little bit later. And you could listen to it with your headphones, or you could listen to it audio like that, or you could even boost it to a Bluetooth it to another external speaker.
How many years has this been going on?
Oh gosh, I've been doing this, I don't know how many years. It seems like 10 years or more. I mean, it's been a long time. And what they usually try to do is pair a more current title with a classic or something older. And they cover the gamut of subjects. So, you know, sometimes it'll be nonfiction, books, and sometimes it'll be fantasy or romance or whatever. And these are two very different books. One is more on the serious nature, and the other one is Terry Pratchett, which is humorous. If you like to listen to books while you're doing something, I mean, it gives you another option. Anyway, and these samples are very nice because it gives you a chance to listen to it and decide whether you really want to listen to the book or not. You just get a little excerpt of it. So there you go.
Thank you.
I'll talk about my other one later.
Okay, great.
Turn my
Your
volume
turn.
off again.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to talk about something completely different.
What happened to that?
I am in charge of the computer section, which is in like the 005s and that area.
Right.
And I've been trying to get things that people might find useful to do things, use their computers a little more powerfully than they might perhaps have before. So I just got this book on the Windows PowerShell. Okay, do you know what the PowerShell is?
Tell us what the PowerShell is.
Okay, well, if you remember DOS, does everybody remember DOS?
Yes.
I remember DOS.
Run.
Yeah, you could automate things using DOS. You could create batch files that would automate a process on your computer. And then Windows kind of went graphical instead of going to GUIs, and they actually ended up using GUIs for a lot of administrative processes.
Tell us what a GUI is.
A graphical user interface.
Okay.
So you just kind of point and click and choose among different options.
That you can see on the screen.
Right. And so Windows has a lot of software programs for managing server, SQL. There's their SQL software.
Structured query language.
Right. And but there are limitations to GUIs. It's like they make some things really easy to do, but they make other things almost impossible. And Windows had kind of gone away from a command line style of interface for people to use to manage their their computers, and they realized that was a problem. And so the PowerShell kind of brings back the command line and gives people the power of the command line to do things that they need to do.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, so to automate processes and write scripts and things like that. So it's analogous to the Unix shells, the bash shell, and I'm speaking a foreign language, aren't I?
Did everybody go to sleep?
Yes, just a little bit.
Viciously is fine.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, well, anyways, the PowerShell is interesting in that they've opened up development of it to, they made it open source, and they've made it possible to run it on non-Windows systems, which is kind of a surprise
Amazing.
for them to be doing. And this is a book that will teach you how to use the PowerShell. So.
Is it available in any computer that's?
It's yeah.
You just have to find a way to get to it.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's used mostly for like administrative processes. So servers, it really comes into its own using it on servers rather than on the typical client machines that people have at home. But there's a lot you could do with it on a client machine as well. So this is cool. Come and check it out.
Great. Thank you. Well, I have a few books to talk about. The first one is called Women in Science. This is a brand new, beautifully illustrated and written book by Rachel Ignotowski. And look at her beautiful illustrations. She has found 50 different women who've made significant impacts in the world of science and has written an article, well, a story, given some information about each person. For example, this is Lisa Meitner. She was a physicist. Meitner?
Yeah, she discovered fission
Meitner.
with Otto Hahn.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then here's Lillian Gilbreth, who was a psychologist and an industrial engineer. She and her husband did a lot of work on the theory of movement and making things as quick and simple as possible. You might have heard of Cheaper by the Dozen. She's the mother of Cheaper by the Dozen. Or there's Emmy, it's hard to read upside down with this font, Noether, a mathematician and theoretical physicist. So this wonderful book talks about all these different people and some of the cool things that they did, and I highly recommend it. So, Women in Science, 50 Fearless Pioneers Who Changed the World. And that is a brand new book. Also, I just finished one last night called 3 Pennies. This is a story set in San Francisco, and Marin is a girl who's been in the foster care system for pretty much her whole life. When she only has a couple of memories of her mother, but when she was 3 years old, she remembers her mother saying, "I can't handle it anymore," and handing little Marin to her friend and leaving and never coming back. And poor Marin is now old enough to, has the opportunity to actually be adopted, but she's always had this hope that her real mother will come back and want her. All she has from those days are a little pocket-sized book of the I Ching and an old piggy bank with 1 nickel in it and no hole to get it out, just the slot on top. And using 3 pennies that she always carries with her, Marin shakes and finds I Ching answers to some of her life's difficult questions, such as, should I go looking for my mother? Or as the I Ching says, that is youthful folly. Things like that. Beautiful story, and it's really nice to see how she can find some resolution and some comfort after this abandonment that has changed her whole life. So a wonderful story about a girl in the foster care system and resilience and what does it really mean to be a family. So, good story. Those are 2 that I really enjoyed, and Christy, tell us some more.
I like the cover.
So
I do too.
the next one is, it's called Option B, Facing Adversity, Building Resilience, and Finding Joy. And it's written by Sheryl Sandberg, and it's a brand new book. She's pretty well known for her book Lean In, and she's an executive at Facebook. She also co-wrote it with Adam Grant, who is a good friend of hers and a psychologist that helped her. So her husband, unexpectedly, I guess you would say, yes, had a heart attack, and he passed away when they were on a trip. And this is her story, but not just her story, it's also several other people's stories of her process of grieving. And Adam really, yes, Adam, I had to look at that twice. He really helped her with a lot of things in going through that process. But it's not just hers, she's also brought in a lot of other people, and it's this idea of that the human beings and our minds are really resilient, but we have to practice at it. And when there are things that happen, whether it's the death of a loved one or it's a traumatic incident, that there are things that you can do, and there are natural parts of the process of getting back to possibly where you were. But I just found it to be just so fascinating, and her style of doing it is just so straightforward, where she talks about her own experiences and then other experiences as well. And I think that it's just an excellent book. Whether it's you're dealing with grief or you're dealing with anything else, this book is just, it's amazing. I thought this part was really neat. Let me find this part. So she talked about that when she was back at work, that people would just say, you know, how are you? And that really hurt her because it felt like they were just kind of glossing over what was happening. And since she's part of Facebook, she one night wrote this very long post that she couldn't decide if she was going to put it out there to the world or not, but she did. And what she talked about was that that hurt her, and that what would be better is if people could say, how are you doing today? So it was the same phrase, the same greeting, but it to her acknowledged that they wanted to know in the here and now, and she could answer that question honestly. She didn't have to say, oh, I'm fine, or oh, it's horrible, but she could say, today, right now in this instant, I am doing well. So it was helpful not only for somebody experiencing these things to get over it, but for community around them, for friends, for realistic ways that you can really help people that are hurting. So I loved it. Highly recommend it.
I got my hands on the brand new John Grisham.
Ooh. How'd you do that?
I put the very first suggestion card in, apparently.
How many people did you have to fight off?
I don't
They
know
all
if
followed
people-
her.
I don't know if people know what's arrived at the library yet. So, brand new book.
Get in there.
I don't normally read John Grisham, but this one really caught my eye because it starts out at the Princeton University Firestone Library. So the opening scene is this professor, or not really professor, I have to think what his name is, Neville Manchin, an American literature at Portland State, soon to be doctoral student at Stanford. Okay, so he has put in a letter to be able to go and look at the special manuscripts that are held at the Princeton Library. And these manuscripts happen to be some of Fitzgerald's early work, like the original Great Gatsby and some of his others. But you soon find out that this person is an imposter, and what it is he's getting permission to go down and look at it, but really, as he pretends to be researching whatever, he's actually noticing where all the cameras are. And a few weeks later, after they visited campus a few more times, there's actually 5 on the team. They go in and they steal the manuscripts.
Oh no.
That is the opening chapter, you guys. So, really got my attention right off. So, somebody has the Great Gatsby, original manuscript. And one of the characters accidentally scrapes his wrist as they are leaving the scene.
DNA.
Yes. So they track him down very quickly, arrest him. So they end up with 2 in custody, but that still leaves 3 members of this team that they are trying to find, along with these 5 manuscripts. And so you've got this story going on. Then you've got this other story where this lady, her name is Mercer, she is a writer and she's got writer's block. Well, the FBI comes to her and asks her to sort of go undercover to see what's going on this island where this bookstore is, that they think there's some black market dealings going on. But of course, there's a love triangle going on. We have to throw that in there. Lots of twists and turns. This was pretty good. I know a lot of people, if you go on Amazon and you read the reviews, have not enjoyed it as a typical John Grisham lawyer, chase them up kind of book, but this is a good book. It's just not his normal style. So, brand new on the new bookshelf, but it's got a list.
It already has a list?
It has a list.
yourself on hold.
We have the
Darn.
book and the audio, so
Oh, nice.
get yourself on hold for it. It's going to be a good one. Lots of twists and turns.
Thank you. Exciting.
I said I would share one of the ones I was listening to, and I found we do have a copy of it.
Oh, good.
It's called Plus One, and it is about a time in the future, well, maybe not that far into the future. Apparently there was, you find out a little way into the book, there was, I want to call it a plague. It was not a plague, but an outbreak, infection that was going around, and they found one of the ways they chose to curb it was to divide the population up so that some people were only out in the daytime and some people were only out at the nighttime, and that cut back quite a bit on people's contact with one another, and so therefore eliminating the problem. They decided this was working so well that they would just keep people in a divided world. So you have the smudges that are only out at night, and you have the rays who live during the daylight. And it centers around a young lady named Sol LeCure, who is a smudge, and her uncle, or her grandfather, she lives with her grandfather and her brother, but her brother has been taken away from them, and supposedly he's been coming, they've allowed him to become a daytime person. And her grandfather's dying of leukemia, and she hears that her brother and his new wife have a baby, and she's determined that she is going to go get that baby and bring it to her grandfather so he can see his great-grandchild. And so she allows herself to be injured in her job, because everybody is either apprenticed or working as an adult. And she injures herself, ends up in the hospital, and sets a whole series of things into play to kidnap this child, who turns out to be the wrong child.
Oh, no.
And she meets up with one of the apprentices that is working in the emergency room. It's a young man her age named Darcy, and she calls him Dayboy. And there's sort of a little relationship going on, but she learns more and more about her family and what her parents had done, because her parents had been killed, and she's now living with just her grandfather, and stuff about Darcy's parents and what's going on with this whole issue of separating the population. Of course, the smudges are considered low life. They're the ones that get to do all the grungy work, and they can never see the daylight. And they keep track of them by, they have to carry a phone that tells all about them, and if you are stopped by the police, they can scan your phone and make sure that you're out at the right time of day, and if you're not, you can be arrested. And they make sure that you stay where you're supposed to. Plus, if you're a smudge, you're supposed to take some medication, to make up for the melatonin you're not getting when you're out, because you're not in the sun. So, kind of interesting, just a little bit of political intrigue and family drama and romance, and what happens when two people from opposite sides meet up and fall in love.
Star-crossed lovers.
Something like that.
Anyway,
it's
using
been,
Capulets.
it's been interesting to listen to. I don't know how far into it I am, probably about 3/4 of the way through. So that's just one of the ones that's happening this summer.
Thank you. That's good. I see you still have some.
So this is a new book that just came out very recently. It's called Ike and McCarthy, and the author gained access to some archives that were sealed for about 50 years. One of the accusations made about McCarthy is that he didn't criticize or really say anything about McCarthy at the time that the McCarthy hearings were going on.
Oh, that Dwight Eisenhower.
Yeah, that
did.
Dwight Eisenhower just kind of let him do his thing and didn't try and stop him or criticize him or present any kind of a moral alternative. But the fact is that before before Eisenhower became president, Truman actively criticized McCarthy, and it didn't have any consequences at all, because McCarthy had a pretty strong base of support, and that insulated him to a large degree from criticism from other people in government and from Eisenhower. And so what this book tells about is Eisenhower's secret machinations that he did behind the scenes
To undermine.
undermine McCarthy. And it sounds like it's a pretty interesting story, and I think it's relevant to things that are happening today. So I ordered the book for the collection, and I'm hoping that people see it and are interested and check it out. So
Great, thank you.
yeah.
I read another book yesterday. This is a children's book called A Whisper of Horses, and unlike many children's books, this is set in a dystopia. It's London after some terrible accident has happened, and most of the buildings are empty and people have gone away somewhere. It's called The Gases, so that I figure that something's happened to change the environment so that it's not really habitable anymore. There's different levels of society. The main character is a girl who is named Serendipity, and her mother has just died, and her last words to her were, "Go outside." So she's trying to find a way outside the ring of the M25 that is the ring road or the wall that's surrounding London, and find what she hopes are the horses that she heard live in the country of Wales. So that's her quest, and she's thwarted at every step by the bad guy who is the chief prime minister, who wants to keep all the living people inside of London and not let any escape, especially not Serendipity, though she doesn't know why she's so special, because she's just been raised as a plebeian the whole time and doesn't really understand why she might be special, but she is. So this is a venture into the world of dystopia in a children's book, and it's quite interesting.
So this is by Patricia Cornwall, and it's called Ripper, The Secret Life of Walter Sickert. I thought it's a nonfiction book. Patricia Cornwall is known for her books, her fiction books. She worked as a journalist, and most of her books are kind of forensic anthropology based, crime-solving kind of mysteries. And this has been her run for a while. She's certain that she knows who Jack the Ripper was. She is certain that it was the artist Walter Sickert, who was around at that time. And really,
She has a case for it.
She does. I don't know if she completely makes her case for it, but I'm more intrigued by the fact that she is, she has interviewed hundreds of people. She has gone to auctions. She bought his desk to try to get DNA samples from it.
What was his profession?
He was a painter.
Oh, okay.
He's a pretty well-known painter. And she equates some of his paintings to crime scenes, Jack the Ripper crime scenes. So I was intrigued for a couple things. Is one, that he is kind of a name that is out there, is mentioned, but not one of most people's, leading
first choice
candidates. And that she has just spent so much time. She's traveled around, she has logs from different hotels, and she has bought possible Jack the Ripper letters and cataloged them together. His family says that she's just truly obsessed with the case and is wrong. But her other one, I think she called it Case Closed. So she's written 2 books now with it. And there's a huge amount of controversy in the art world about it. There was a story that she had destroyed one of his paintings trying to get DNA and different samples from it, but she didn't actually destroy it. She's been outbid at auctions for his letters and paintings because people don't want her to have them. So it's quite a story around the book as well. So this is really in-depth. It has tons of photos and letters, and if you're interested in Jack the Ripper at all, I'd say you can read it. His paintings, she's gone all over the place. I'm not quite sure that she completely has closed the case, that I believe her, but
She thinks so.
she does, and it's well researched and written, and I enjoyed it, but I don't know. I think I enjoyed it more for the story around the book.
Right.
So.
Great, thank you.
I have the new MC Beaton book, Death of a Ghost. So I'll just go right in with yours. So this is a Hamish Macbeth mystery, the newest one. It's number 32 in the series. I'd never read any of the Hamish Macbeth books, but this one sounded really good. So Hamish hears about this haunted castle, and
In Scotland?
yes, Scotland. And they decide to go check it out. So he takes Charlie, which is very clumsy. Everything always goes wrong with Charlie. Poor guy. So they're walking through this castle, and they can hear some of the moaning and groaning that the townsfolk can probably hear. And then Charlie falls to the floor. And that is where they see or find a dead body. Okay, so they decide, well, we probably need to get some backup. So they go down to the local pub and get some fish and chips while they're waiting for their buddies to come. And so they're like on, 30 minutes or so. They go back. There's no dead body. So they, there's lots of jokes whether or not they really saw what they saw, and different stories are intertwined, and you end up finding out that there is some smuggling going on. There's some affairs going on. There's good cop versus bad cop going on. So they all interfile. And I'm guessing in some of the past ones, the cop that you think is not so good is
The good one.
the good one, and the one you think is the great cop ends up being the bad one. So I'm thinking that's a big twist, because just for this little book it was, and I know it's a character that's in several of the others. But they have to find this dead body and figure out who's trying to hide it and why, what's being smuggled. So this one was fun. So The Death of a Ghost, and it's a new book. We also have the book or the audio of this one. So come find it at the library.
Thank you. John, there is one more that you have that I really want to hear about, because I've always liked Casablanca.
This is a lot of people's favorite movie.
It's maybe not my favorite, but
one
it's...
a favorite. It's
It's a
one of
classic.
mine. It's a classic film. And this is the story about the making of the film. And one of the interesting things about it is the number of people who were involved in making it who were actually refugees
Really?
from Europe. Yes, a lot.
Clock. Was he a refugee?
Pardon?
The guy that the German man who looks at his...
I think he was. Peter Lorre was kind of a refugee, and he's in the movie. And then a number of other actors, and then people involved behind the scenes as well. So this book tells the story of those people and of the making of the film. And so it looks pretty interesting. And I love books about, I like film, I love film, so finding out about the background of films and how they were made and the people involved is always pretty interesting. And so this is about that.
We'll always have Casablanca.
We'll always have Paris.
Yes.
Yes.
But in this case, we'll always have Casablanca.
All the gin joints in the world. And
He had to
Yes,
walk
she
into,
had to walk
she had to
in
walk
here.
into mine. Yes.
And then, of course, the famous line that was never said, "Play it again, Sam."
That's right.
Yeah. So,
Very nice. Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
And here we are at the end of another scintillating conversation among librarians and involving you two. So come to the library, tell us what your favorite books are, and maybe we'll talk about them next time. You never know. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye.